Look at your life, not the highlight reel, not the version you post online. I mean, really look at it. The unfiltered 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling version of your life. Because somewhere along the way, you stopped looking. You started managing, surviving, scrolling past the question instead of answering it. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't fail because life is hard. They fail because life is easy enough to ignore. The bills get paid. The job is tolerable. The days move. And that movement tricks you into thinking you're going somewhere. You're not. You're drifting. Drifting feels exactly like progress until you look up 5 years later and realize the river took you nowhere near where you meant to go. Jim Rohn used to say something that sounds simple until it lands on you like a weight. Either you run the day or the day runs you. Most people read that and nod and keep scrolling. But sit with it for a second. How many of your days this year did you actually run? How many ran you? Let me tell you about a man. Call him David, because this story is really 1,000 people wearing one name. David was 34. Good job, decent apartment, the kind of life that looks fine in a photograph. Every morning he told himself today would be different. Today he'd start the business, write the book, call his father, fix the thing that had been quietly rotting in his chest for years. Every night he closed his eyes, having done none of it, comforted by the same lie. There's still time. But here's what most people miss about time. It doesn't announce its exit. It doesn't send a warning email. It just quietly stops being available. And one day you reach for it and your hand closes on air. David didn't have a tragedy. That's the part that should disturb you. He had no rock bottom, no dramatic collapse. He had 10,000 small, forgivable choices. And forgivable choices, stacked high enough, build a prison just as real as any mistake. All this, the subtle art of accumulation. Discipline accumulates. Regret accumulates. Regret accumulates. The terrifying truth is that they look identical for the first few months. You cannot tell from the inside which one you're building. And this is where everything changes. Because if regret and growth are both built from the same material, repetition, then the only thing separating the two versions of David, the only thing separating the two versions of you, is direction. Not motivation, not inspiration, direction. A decision repeated until it becomes structure. Think about a field left alone. Nobody has to work to grow weeds. Neglect is automatic. Discipline is the only thing in this entire universe that has to be chosen on purpose every single day with no applause. Ron put it plainly. Discipline weighs ounces. Regret weighs tons. You will pay one of those two prices. There is no version of your life where you pay neither. The only question being decided right now, in this very moment you're listening to this, is which currency you'll be spending the next 10 years in. So why don't people choose discipline if it's so obviously lighter? Because discipline costs now and regret bills you later. And the human brain is a genius at borrowing against a future it doesn't believe will actually arrive. You think you'll have more time, more energy, more clarity next month. You won't. You'll have the exact same amount of resistance wearing a different disguise. Here's the deeper layer, the one almost nobody says out loud. You are not lazy. You are unpracticed at being honest with yourself. Laziness is a comfortable lie you tell so you don't have to look at the real one, that you are afraid. Afraid that if you actually tried fully without excuses and it still didn't work, you'd have nothing left to blame. As long as you don't try completely, you get to keep the fantasy that you could have. The moment you commit fully, you lose the fantasy and gain the truth. And the truth, unlike the fantasy, can actually be built on. This is what separates the people who transform their lives from the people who simply talk about transforming them. Not talent, not luck, the willingness to trade comfort for clarity, even when clarity hurts. David, somewhere in his 35th year, finally looked. Really looked. Not at his bank account or his job title, but at the gap between the man he said he wanted to be and the man his actual Tuesdays were building. And the gap was the loudest thing he'd ever heard. He realized something Roland understood decades ago. It's not what happens that determines your life, it's what you do about what happens. The economy didn't change. His job didn't change, he changed how he spent his mornings, and that one variable rewrote everything downstream of it. He didn't become a different person overnight. Nobody does, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you something. What changed was smaller and far more powerful. He stopped negotiating with himself. He stopped asking, do I feel like it today? And started asking, what does the person I'm becoming do today? That single shift in the question changes the entire trajectory of a life, because feelings are unreliable narrators. But identity, once decided, doesn't ask your permission. What happens next is the part that should sit heaviest with you. Time doesn't slow down to let you catch up. It doesn't pause while you find motivation. It is passing right now while you listen to this, the same way it was passing during every video you watched instead of starting, every night you scrolled instead of sleeping, every morning you snoozed instead of standing. You cannot get a single one of those mornings back. Not one. The next ones, though, those are still unclaimed. This is the part where most motivational messages tell you to believe in yourself. I won't insult you with that. Belief is cheap. Belief without behavior is just a more comfortable form of denial. What you need isn't belief. It's evidence. Evidence is built one decision at a time, in private, with no one watching and no one applauding, which is exactly why most people never build it. They're only disciplined when someone's watching. Real transformation happens in the unwatched hours. So look at your life, not with judgment, with honesty. Look at the gap between who you say you want to be and what your actual days have been quietly constructing. That gap is not your enemy. It's your map. It's telling you exactly where the work is. Said it best, and I'll leave you with it because it deserves to be the last thing you hear and the first thing you remember tomorrow morning. You cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction. Today, not someday. Today, while there's still a today left to spend. Because one day, far sooner than it feels right now, you will look back at this exact moment. The one you're in right now, listening to these words, and you will know with total certainty whether this was the moment everything turned, or just another day the river carried you past the life you meant to build. The choice isn't loud. It never is. It's quiet, it's small, and it's entirely yours. So, look at your life, and then decide what you're going to do about what you see.